Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, I want to offer you 5 practical tips for not catching a brick when you go to New Comic Book Day. And if you're anything like me, you may go to the comic shop and you may get caught up in the conversation. You buy your books, you get home, and then you realize that the book that you picked up isn't a good book because it's damaged. And so I want to offer you a couple of tips that will hopefully help prevent you from catching that brick. The first tip that I want to offer to you is to show up on New Comic Book Day. I, like you, have a busy life, and there are Wednesdays that come and go, and I actually do not make it to the comic shop. And when that happens, you're oftentimes left with whatever is left in the shop. That is, if you don't have a pull list, you are literally potentially left with the very last book that is sitting on the shelf. Oftentimes that book is damaged. So if you can, show up on New Comic Book Day or shortly thereafter, like on Thursday. Not a bad day if you can't make it there on Wednesday, but you want to get there as close to the day as possible. Tip number 2, if you don't have one, get a pull list. I'll be honest with you, the best way to ensure that you get a good copy of a book and that you also get a copy of the book is to have a pull list. Your comic shop will love you for having a pull list because they can count on that business. So if you haven't ever set up a pull list, make sure you do it. And the thing is that like a lot of people did not get The Last Ronin, issue number 1, for example, because despite being Turtle fans, they did not have pull lists. They did not have these books on reserve, and because of that, they didn't get those books, which meant that they had to go to the secondary market and they had to pay a lot more for those books. So if you don't have one, get a pull list. Tip number 3, have a relationship with your LCS. Relationships matter. Like location in real estate, relationships matter when it comes to comics. If you have a relationship with your LCS, either the owner or an employee there, you will be surprised how they will actually look out for you to make sure that you get a good copy of the book, and if not a good copy, at least you get a copy of the book. I can't tell you how many times having a relationship has actually saved me because I haven't potentially had a book on my pull list, or I've wanted a book that was super popular that I wanted an extra copy of, and being able to call up the local comic shop and ask them to hold you a copy, that is some intangible stuff that you definitely do not want to miss out on. So if you don't talk to the folks at your local comic shop, I would highly encourage you to do so because it honestly goes a long way. One of the most important tips that I'm going to offer you is this one right here. Compare the books before you leave the comic shop. This is something that I didn't start doing personally until like 2 years ago. I would go in, I would buy my books wherever they were, either off the shelf or from my pull box, and I would go home and then I would be upset that I purchased a damaged book. So what I started doing was actually, while I was in the shop, I will take the books and I will compare them to make sure that I get the best possible copy that is in the store. And it doesn't matter whether the book comes from the pull list, box, and back. I will look at it before I leave the shop, and if it's damaged, I will go to the shelf and try to find a better copy. Or if I grab it from the shelf, I will take off 3 or 4 books in my hands, try to examine them, and to try to pick the one with the least number of defects. And part of the reason why I do this is because everybody wants a perfect book. Especially if you're going to get the book graded, you don't know which of the books that comes out is going to be the hot book. So why not get the best possible copy of that book when you have the opportunity? And there's no better opportunity when there's like 10 or 20 copies that are actually on the shelf in front of you. That's the perfect time to actually be incredibly picky. And I have never been in a comic shop that minds me doing that, because at the end of the day, they know one of those books is actually going home with me. One of the last tips that I want to offer you in this video is to take your supplies with you. There has been a little bit of a shortage, at least in my area, with bags and boards because of what is happening with the pandemic. A lot of shops are not able to get bags and boards in a timely fashion, or they run out. And so for that reason, I actually go to the local comic shop with bags and boards, and I also go with something to carry my comics in, because even if you take all of the precautions that I've highlighted in this video of picking the right comic and having a pull list and all that kind of stuff, if the book gets messed up on the way home, all bets are off, right? So you want to make sure that you have your supplies to transport those books safely from the local comic shop back to your house. So there you have it. Those are my 5 tips for not catching a brick on New Comic Book Day. If you enjoyed this video, I want to encourage you to hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment behind so we can mix it up in the comment section. If you need to reach out to me, you can do that on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.